Welcome to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in to Tyrompers No Limit Podcast. Today, guys, we are fired up as always. We got a man, a myth, a legend on here. This is a guy who's come onto the scene a few months ago, taking Twitter by storm. Actually, one of my favorite guys I follow right now. Pretty grateful we're capturing when we get him because I think one day he's probably going to be too big for us to get on the podcast. So this is my main man, Tom. Call him the brain battery. This guy writes amazing threads, puts out great content. He's always pouring into other people. I love this guy a lot. Really fired up to have him on the pod today. Thanks for coming on, Tom. How you doing, my man?
Of course, man. It's my absolute pleasure. And I promise that I don't think that I will reach a point of critical mass where you can never get in contact with me, Tyler. I promise, like we were just talking about before when we were doing our little introduction, if it wasn't for the love, support, and everything that you showed me, I don't think that I'd be where I am right now with my social media journey. So I'm honored to be on here.
Bro, it's my honor to have you, man. I love what's really cool about me when you get to a certain position on social media is then you get to see some up and coming guys that are where you're exactly where I was, right? Like a couple of years ago. And so it's like you're just putting out great content, pouring into people. All the things you say are right on point with most of the things I believe too. And it's cool. And I'm grateful for social media that we get to connect and get to know more about each other and help each other. You've already helped me in many ways, man. Help me change my background picture. Even before this, you're helping me get the mic in the shot. I've been wanting to learn this for a long time. So I appreciate you a ton, brother. You're awesome. Well, anybody who might not know you yet or anything, again, I'm gonna link everything you do below, of course, but give us a backdrop, just a couple minutes of who you are, what you're about, my man.
Sure, of course. I want to run it back a tiny bit. So on my personal life, I'm an associate director of strategic partnerships at a venture capital firm. But on social media, I am Tom, the brain battery. I teach people how to live happier, more fulfilled lives through physical health, mental health, overall wellness. And I think one of my key brand strategies is the clinical back strategies, creating those really big threads with all of the source clinical data and making sure that I give consenting adults the proper information for them to make the choices that matter most to them. And one of the main reasons why I had formulated my entire social media presence was because of a traumatic event that happened to me, believe it or not, in September of last year. So, September 1st, 2022, I had a life-changing back surgery because of a car accident that I was in. I had been very fit and very big my entire life. Unfortunately, when I was powerlifting at one point, I herniated the L5S1 disc in my back. That was asymptomatic for years and years and years. And then one day when I was on my way to work at about 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, somebody fell asleep at the wheel behind me and their car smashed right into the back of mine. This caused the L5S1 disc in my back to shift to the left and completely compress my S1 nerve root. I felt 10 out of 10 sciatica pain for what felt like months. I spiraled into anxiety. I spiraled into depression. I completely lost the thread when it came to my diet. And it all culminated to one fateful day when I was getting out of the bed that's in my apartment, literally right to the left of me. I put weight down on that left leg and I felt the most 1,000 out of 10 pain I've ever felt in my entire life. Shooting, burning, every single muscle in my lower back and leg flexing at the same time. It was so excruciating that I actually dropped to the floor from the pain. I army crawled my way to my desk. I grabbed my phone and I called myself an ambulance. Got to the hospital and I was expecting to get some sort of steroid injection and they were going to send me on my way and I was going to be okay. Rather than that, in walks a neurosurgeon and he goes, "Tom, I don't know how to tell you this. However, if we do not surgically operate on you within the next couple of weeks, there is a chance that you may lose function in your left leg completely." Now, as a 26-year-old man, that is not something that I wanted to hear.
Yeah, for sure, man.
And I was like, "Oh my God, like this is real. This is really happening. I need to make a game day decision right here." And by the grace of God and by the grace of the hands of that surgeon, I was able to come out of that surgery with almost no pain associated with the sciatica pain that I had. And I went down this 4 to 5 month journey of just soul searching and figuring out who I really was. I formulated my entire identity around fitness and how big I was. And when that was stricken from me, I didn't know who I was, right? So that's when I started to get into the clinical trials. I did the readings, I did my soul searching. And finally, 5 months later, I have formulated this person that you see in front of you who is Tom, the brain battery. So I hope that that wasn't too long-winded of a way of answering your question, man.
That's amazing, brother. That's so cool. And I can relate to that in a lot of ways where, I think when I was 20, man, I was all in on poker, right? And I spent, the next 7, 8, 9, 10 years, just everything was poker, making money, playing poker, getting better, wanting to be one of the best in the world. And then that was taken away from me on Black Friday, they called it in the States, where they just became illegal one day overnight to play online poker. And so I went from making a ton of money to, and I spiraled into a depression after that for sure, man. But I feel like champions like you, man, you almost come out of something like that. Like life, often it's not your fault, right? If you get knocked down, I always say this, but it's always your fault if you choose to get back up. And so what was that day like? Can you kind of describe that to me when you really said, okay, like, look, I got pain, I got this, I'm coming out of surgery, I can go one way or the other, right? And because you've kind of turned it full circle and like, hey man, I'm proud, I'm happy. Now I'm like on this trajectory. What was that like? Can you walk us through that, man?
Oh man. I wish that I could say that there was a turning point moment day, but I want to say that my mindset changed over the course of maybe like a week or two. And believe it or not, the mindset change didn't happen after the surgery, it happened prior to it. When I actually was told that I needed to get the surgery done, I don't know what it was. I don't know if there was some sort of cosmic force or something that changed my mindset, but I thought like, you know what, Tom, you're at a crossroads right now. After this surgery, you can choose to take it laying down. You can choose to not be active. You can choose to continue down this path of anxiety, continue down this path of depression, have your diet be crap, look like crap, feel like crap, or you can go the complete opposite. You're not going to be at work. You're going to have no responsibility. You can read, you can learn, you can get better, you can walk, and you can forge a new version of yourself. And when I made that choice and I said, you know what, I'm going to take the right path instead of the left path. The moment that I came out of that surgery and I was carted out in that wheelchair, even though I was a little bit loopy off the medication, from day one, I was like, I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get better. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that I can be physically fit. I'm going to do everything I can. And that all culminated into reading hundreds of hours of clinical trials, reading how to fix nerves in an expedited manner, reading how to switch your diet from being pro-inflammatory to being anti-inflammatory, changing your mindset to get out of anxiety, changing your mindset to get out of depression. And again, I had so much time on my hands, and time is the single best resource that anybody can have. I don't believe that there's a single dollar value in the world that you can subscribe to time. And when I had all that time, all I did was just invested in myself.
Man, that's super inspiring, brother. I love that. Can you talk a little bit about how, because I'm really interested in this too, where I was on anxiety meds for a while and I just told myself too, well, I'm just an anxious person. That's who I am, right? I bought these self-limiting beliefs for a long time of just, that's who I am. And until I really started to fix my diet, getting in the sun, daily walks, dopamine detoxes, fasting, more of these things that I've gotten into now. I feel like, man, I've reduced it 95+%, right? And so can you kind of talk about some of the steps you took? And then you talk about that inflammatory diet versus anti-inflammatory diet. Can you talk about that as well, man? Because I think that can help a lot of people out there.
Of course, I would absolutely love to. And I'm a very open and transparent person. And Tyler, I want to thank you for sharing the fact that you were also on anxiety medication at one point. I love having open, transparent, and compassionate conversations with people.
Same, brother. I'm going to pause you right there and just say that's why I love the community we're in, because it's not a bunch of guys just saying, oh, I can do this and that and that. It's, dude, we've all struggled. And I think the cool thing is when you come through the fire a little bit, so to speak, what you really want to do if you come out better is help other people get through that same fire and come out better too. Once your mind gets to a certain place in life, all you want to do is help pull others up, man. And I think that's why I appreciate you so much too, brother.
Yeah, of course, man. I think that, and I promise that I'll also get to the question you just asked me, but I hate when I see, and hate's a very strong word, so maybe not hate, but when I see these accounts on Twitter and Instagram and all these social media platforms and YouTube and TikTok, if you're on there, and people are always talking about like, oh, be a man, like, you don't need anxiety medication, you don't need to talk to anybody, you just need to lift weights, right? And listen, that stuff helps, but like people that say that type of stuff haven't been through it, right? And it's these 18, 19-year-olds, and there's nothing wrong with those people, but like you just said, when you're really through the fire, you don't want to give these harsh generalizations to people. You want to do everything in your power to help bring people up with you.
Right.
And that's the entire reason why I started the Brain Battery account. It was a passion project so I could share the learnings that I had to go through, in the hopes that if I could touch 1, 2, 3 people and they don't have to go through the traumatic event that I went through in order to feel better, then that would be the most fulfilling thing in the entire world.
I love that so much, brother. That's exactly why I started my Twitter, man. I actually prayed over a notebook before I started my Twitter and said, hey, God, if I can impact a couple people, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
We do that, right? And so, yeah,
I had the same
we're
exact
very
thing.
like-minded in that, man. All right, now,
Yeah.
sorry that I distracted you. Go back to the
No.
anti-inflammatory diet.
Yeah. No. I think that it was a very, very worthwhile distraction, man. No worries at all.
I agree, man. We go everywhere on this podcast, man. So
yeah. I love this, man. Just open conversations. So the inflammatory diet. I was actually thinking about writing a Twitter thread about this, and I probably will. But to boil it all down, we're faced with so many inflammatory pressures throughout our entire lives, just living in modern society. Whether that be things like pollution, whether that be things like microplastics, things like seed oils, for example, and a large source of systemic inflammation within the body. So there's 2 different types of inflammation that you can think of in a very high level. There's acute inflammation. So like when Tom benches too much weight and he hurts his shoulder, the body, which I'm no stranger of, the body causes an acute place of inflammation so that it can rush nutrients and blood and everything to try to fix the injury, right? However, a big problem of just living modern day lifestyle and having what I call the SAD diet, the standard American diet, is that it's pro-systemic inflammatory, because it's hyper processed, it's full of omega-6 fatty acids, and you don't have anything in order to combat that inflammation within the diet, like your omega-3 fatty acids that are anti-inflammatory. All of this boils down to something that is called within the scientific community as the brain-gut axis. When your gut microbiome and everything is thrown off through inflammation, through the things that you eat. And I found it really interesting that you said a change of your diet helped you with some of the mental illnesses that you had, because that's proven science. And I had the same exact thing happen to me. When we continually have inflammatory things throwing off our gut microbiome, it's only going to affect our head even more. I don't know the exact statistics, and I'd have to fact check myself on it, but I would say that 80%, maybe 80 to 85% of people who experience some sort of mental illness in their lives can link back at least a portion of that mental illness to the foods that they're ingesting.
Man, yeah, I think that's just intuitively for me. I didn't go back and do all that. I remember just when I got on this self-improvement journey, one thing I did intuitively was say, I'm going to keep a journal of what I eat and how I feel in the hour after it, right? And so for me, it was just like, okay, man, when I'm eating this Lucky Charms for breakfast is what I used to eat every day, 2 bowls, man, which is wild, like looking back. But I'd eat it, and then I'd realize, man, an hour later, I'm really tired, I'm really agitated, I feel stressed, I want to eat again, all these things. So, and I just kept this journal for a couple of weeks, and it really led me to discover what foods my body tolerated really well and what foods my body really hated, man, and made me feel like stressed all the time, right? And so that was a big exercise for me. But yeah, the processed crap, man, it's everywhere, right? You have to go out of your way to not get it now in our society.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible to me. And that actually brings up a really interesting point of view. And I really like that you took such a personable approach to it. You kept a food journal and you found out what made you feel bad, what made you feel good, and then you focused on what made you feel good. I don't like getting into the politics of different dietary schools of thought.
Yeah.
Like, that vegan makes you feel really good, or carnivore makes you feel really good, or omnivore, or pescatarian. I think that all of these dietary schools of thought are looking at the wrong enemy. So vegans think that their natural enemy are people who have carnivore diets and vice versa, or pescatarians don't like vegetarians. The reality of the situation is that if you're in a diet and you're not eating processed man-made crap and it makes you feel good, that's the diet that you should stick on. And
Amen.
all of these dietary schools of thought should just be focused on the one enemy, and that is these manufactured, man-made, processed food companies that are putting ingredients into their food to make you addicted to them like a drug so that you continually to eat them.
Mhm.
So I don't care if you're vegan. I don't care if you're carnivore. I don't care if you eat tofu every single day for the rest of your life. As long as you're not eating Doritos and, like you said, Lucky Charms and everything, like, I guarantee you're going to feel better at least 50% of the time.
Dude, that's such a great point. I always joke on Twitter, man. Some of these guys and girls, they don't have a diet. They have a religion when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
They literally will yell at people who are like, yeah, my wife's really super healthy. She's been vegetarian for like 18 years. I'm not vegetarian. I eat meat, but it's like I found the 10, 12, 14 foods that work really well for me. I tend to just eat those over and over and over again. My wife has found what works really well for her. She tends to eat those. There's always more than one path to victory. And I think it is personal, right? Like it does bother me a lot of these times when these guys will come on and then you have to be this way, you have to be that way. And it's like, no, you need to find what works for you. We're all made different, right? So I love that you bring up that point, man. So how did you find exactly what worked for you then? What was your process around it, Tom?
So my process around it was a very, very, very strict elimination diet.
Mhm.
So when I came out of the surge, and it's not something that I wasn't unfamiliar with because the bodybuilding and the powerlifting and everything that I did in the past. So I was used to eating, chicken, rice, and broccoli, or beef and rice and broccoli every single day, right? so so I went on a very, I guess you could say, a couple month-long journey where all I ate was essentially some different cut of beef, liver, eggs, and rice.
Every
And
day.
then every
Yeah.
single day, that was all I ate for probably like a 3 week time period. Then I would introduce another food and introduce another food and introduce another food, right? And then I would, just like you did, journal. How did I feel energy wise this day? Did I feel weird? Did I feel off? Did I feel pressure in my ears? And then slowly bundled into, just like what you just said very, very eloquently, that 14 to 16 food pattern that you can very sustainably eat for a long period of time. Listen, I don't want to sit here and say that I'm perfect.
Yeah.
When I go out with my girlfriend for dinner, like, if I want to have a piece of tiramisu, like, I'm probably going to have a piece of tiramisu, right?
Right.
But if you're focused and you're clear on your diet 99% of the time, that one time that you have that sugary snack or something like that, you're not going to be affected in the long run.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I'm like an 80-20, and as I get older, I've noticed I need to make it about an 85-15, right? Like you just kind of have to narrow that window. But yeah, I have ice cream with my kids every week, man. We do a pizza night,
Yeah. And it's
right?
just
But
human.
yeah, exactly, man. And I tend to think before I eat, okay, why am I eating this, right? And 10, 15, 20% of my meals, I'm literally just eating for pleasure, right? Like I love that bite of pizza. And I think that's the difference is when, okay, let's say I eat 24 times in a week, 22 of them are super healthy and on point, and they're exactly, I know what fuels my body. Those other couple, man, I don't have to feel guilty about it. I can go out to dinner with my wife and order what I want and get a dessert, and like I feel great like while I'm eating it. And I think that's the big difference between a lifestyle and sort of a diet where you always feel miserable. You're always trying to, oh, I wish I could have that, but I can't. And that's why I always encourage everybody, and I feel like you do too, to just create a lifestyle that's very sustainable for you, right?
Yeah, I agree with that 150% of the way. If you focus on these strict elimination diets and you do it for such a long period of time, you're really just on a crash course for destruction, right? You're eventually going to hit that breaking point where you binge eat. And then the next thing you know, you ate an entire carton of ice cream and you had 2 pizzas, right? And it's like, you know, allow yourself some breaks, right? You're a human being. You're not a robot, right? And it's so important to realize that. And the longer that you can do that, and just like you said, establish that lifestyle, then it's a completely different mathematical equation. I remember that this slightly ties to it, but it was a point that I recalled earlier when we were talking about the dietary schools of thought. When you tweeted out, I believe that it was you that tweeted out, and forgive me if I'm misquoting you, but you said, if all of your beliefs fall into one political party, right? You
Yeah,
don't actually have your own political beliefs.
that's right.
And I think that can be prescribed to almost anything in life, right? If you find yourself being a complete copy and paste of somebody else or a complete copy and paste of a diet, it's not actually yours.
That's right. Yeah. I align with that so much, man. I even say that, whether that's in a church, right? Like I have people that say, well, I don't agree with what this church, well, you're never going to find one place that lines up perfectly with you. That's why I'm so grateful I got 110,000 people that follow me on Twitter, because I know I say things that they don't agree with, but they're, respectful enough adults to understand that, hey, we're not all going to agree on everything, but I can still find value from this person, right? And everybody I follow on Twitter, social media, there's people that, one of the guys that I learned the most from is really into microdosing and literally does drugs 5 days a week. I don't do drugs anymore. And so like, I could look at him and say, well, I'm not going to follow him because of this. Or I could understand, hey man, he's really smart in these business areas and I can learn a lot from him in that. And maybe the other stuff just isn't for me right now, right? And I think you can apply that to everything in life if you want to be a successful adult, right?
Oh, 100%, man. I think that the reason why I enjoy Twitter so much, and the reason why I've enjoyed this social media journey so much, is actually because I've been able to follow people that have opposing views of my own, and being able to follow people and kind of see it from a different lens. I think all too often, at least in real life, we surround ourselves with kind of like a sounding board, right? Where everything you say is always agreed upon. I like being challenged. I like being able to see other people's points of view so that maybe they can just solidify my own beliefs further. Or on the flip side, maybe be like, hey, you know what? Maybe that person actually has a point. Right. So it's just this great journey of constantly expanding your consciousness and constantly expanding this person that is Tyler or this person that is Tom, to just continually learn and grow. And social media is just an excellent vehicle for that.
Man, that's so well said, man. And what I think back to originally, I joked with you. I used to eat 2 bowls of Lucky Charms every day. They said they were heart healthy on the box,
It lowers cholesterol.
Yeah, lowers cholesterol. I had all these reasons. It tasted delicious, right? And then it was Cynthia Thurlow, one of the first people I ever followed on Twitter, that said, that the standard American diet, sad, right, is poisoning you. And so I had this belief of like, well, it's whole grain, it has to be good, right? And I remember asking her a couple questions about it. She put me onto a couple of resources, the book Sugar, Salt, Fat, which is an amazing book. And that
I actually
really
just had
started
that
to open my
recommended to me. I
eyes.
need to read that.
Oh, it's an amazing book. Yeah, man. And you mentioned how they addict you, and it talks about all the studies they did in the 80s and the 90s when a lot of this stuff changed, and why we're seeing the obesity rates now hit 43% of adults in America. It's because of these things, man. These giant food companies and corporations started just adding sugar basically to everything and addicting you to all this processed food. But yeah, man, that was cool for me to get to challenge that belief and learn, and then be like, you know what? I'm totally wrong on this. Like, I'm going to go the far other direction. If I eat breakfast, it's going to be eggs or, a protein shake now. Like but that's the beauty of social media, is I can learn from you, you can learn from me, and we can like keep leveling up. And I think some people that use social media, they hop on and they argue with strangers every day. And it's just so wrong, man. This is the greatest tool in the history, I think, of humanity, to be honest, that we can jump on and learn from experts in every area, and they're willing to share. It's literally, man, a gift that I will never take for granted.
Yeah, I completely agree. And just being able to follow these people who I model my own social media after, and piggyback off of their ideas or get an idea from their idea, it's just been such a phenomenal journey. And like you said, these experts that are willing to give all this information for free. But I had a thought spring to my head actually when you were just talking about the sugar, salt, and fat in these processed food companies and the obesity rates. There's a company called Zero Acre Farms, who actually makes a very, very low inflammatory seed oil, essentially, or a seed oil substitute. And I'm not sure if you had a chance to read the thread that I put out on seed oils and the crazy journey that they went through with essentially bribing the American Heart Association and being put into all of these foods. So there was a massive study that was done across the United States specifically. And actual caloric intake since about the 60s has actually remained the same in the United States, which I thought was very, very, very interesting.
Surprising.
However, seed oil consumption has gone up a massive tick ever since they started to realize that it was a very, very cheap alternative source to put into food.
Now, let me pause you. When you're talking seed oil, you're talking Crisco, the big things that everybody dumps into their pan when they cook. right? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, like the canola oils of the world, the seed oils, the grapeseed oils, sunflower oils, another really big one that you see on packaging. And these things are absolutely chock full of those omega-6 fatty acids that I was talking about earlier that cause massive systemic inflammation and problems within the body. So one really interesting point in this study was many people believe that weight gain is caused by calories in, calories out, which is very true. However, there needs to be some sort of X variable that is causing obesity rates to rise at the rates that they are right now, when actualized caloric intake has only increased by about 10% across the United States. One of those X variables that people believe and scientists believe could be is actually grape seeds. I'm sorry, excuse me, seed oils. So just food for thought. Especially like you were saying, when experts are talking about all of these things online, I never even knew seed oils was a thing until I started going on to Twitter. I was like, holy crap, this is a substance that I've been ingesting my entire life that I had absolutely no idea was causing me so many different issues.
Man, same. I remember the day my wife and she wasn't super pumped because now we buy avocado oil, which is $20 for a bottle instead of
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
90 cents for a twice as big bottle, right? And there's a reason this stuff is cheaper though, right? And I remember calling my parents and telling them like, hey, man, I'm learning about this stuff, right? Yeah, it is. It's a plethora of knowledge you can take and apply. It's wild. So you think that it causes a lot of inflammation in the body, which then my first thought is I bet that's risen too. And that stat surprises me. We've only eaten 10% more because I would think the portions have gotten bigger, but 10%, I guess, is still a decent amount. But obesity rates have probably gone up 4,000%, right? So it doesn't correlate. Probably less movement as more like screen time and thing like that too. But I guarantee the seed oil is a massive one, man. I mean, I know when we removed that from our diet, man, I started feeling better within weeks, like just within
100%, 100%. You know, there was a point in time when I was going through this dietary journey. And the weird part about feeling like crap is that you never realized you felt like crap in the first place, right? Until you remove the thing that was making you feel like crap. So there were days where, you know, I'd feel sluggish and I'd feel whatever. And like, that was just the way that I knew how to live life, right? Mm-hmm. And then I experienced the same change of life moment when I removed these pro-inflammatory industrial seed oils from my diet. All of a sudden, everything just seemed clear, and I seemed a little bit more mentally acute, and I could speak a little bit clearer, and I could be a little bit sharper. And I was like, wait a minute, there's only one thing that I've removed from my diet, and it was these seed oils. And then it's like, I went down the rabbit hole of research, man. And I mean, you know, you see how deep I go on those rabbit holes.
Yeah, man, you put out some of these threads are just, I mean, how long does it take you to write some of those threads? Because they're so in detail, and you do link all the studies, and which I think is amazing, because too many people just fire out, well, I think this. And it's like, okay, man, but like, you know, why do you think the way you think? I'd like to know that before testing this, you know?
Of course. Yeah. I think I timed, so it's difficult to time myself on how long it takes me to make these threads, because I do them like in my free time, like, you know, when I get home. But you know, I would probably say it could take me anywhere from like 10 to 12 hours to do one thread.
Man, see, that's the thing too that people need to understand, right? You're new onto the scene of social media, but you're already growing quite a bit and starting to create a great following. And, you know, I think people don't understand that it takes some work, right? Like you don't grow a following just by like tweeting when you want to, or not putting out work and putting things out there, right? And I think that's a testament to whatever you want to do. You got to make up your mind, I want to be great at this thing, and try and improve your process all the time and put in time, man. Because I mean, you still work your job, right?
Yeah. Oh, trust me, I still do.
And
sometimes I wish I didn't, and I hope my boss doesn't listen to this. But yeah, no, there's definitely times where I'm like, holy crap, like why couldn't I just do this social media stuff full time?
I'll tell you, man, it's. I remember when I was doing both too, you know, before I was able to quit the job, and that it is sometimes, man, you know, you use a whole weekend just to get out some threads so you can put out for the next week, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize that takes. So walk me through like a day or two in your life, man. What is it you're working the job, you got the girlfriend, or you hitting the gym. Kind of give us some of your daily routines, habits,
Yeah,
because
sure. I would
you
love
do
to
a
talk
lot,
about that.
brother. So let's hear
Yeah,
how
I
you're
know, I
successful,
know.
man.
Sometimes honestly, like I'm surprised by myself because when I start to talk about it and I start to really think about like how much I do on a daily basis, I'm like, damn, like I do all of that.
Pat
So
yourself, man. Good job,
yeah,
Tom. You
yeah.
did it, buddy.
Quick pat on the back, quick pat on the back. So honestly, a typical day for me in the weekday would probably look like me getting up at about 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6:45. I jet right out of bed. I don't allow myself to look at my phone until probably about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. The moment I step out of bed, I do what I would call a yoga routine just to keep everything kind of loose. And especially with the issues that I have with my back, I won't pretend that my back is perfect because it's far from perfect. But every day, I'm working on it.
Nice.
After I finish my routine, I always go for a walk. I have to get my morning walk in. Even like today, it was like 15 degrees out, and I'm going for my walk, right?
You just bundle up and go, always
Yeah,
outside.
exactly. Yeah, wrap myself in a big old jacket and then go for my walk.
Man.
So and I use that to really I would even say I use the walk as my pre-plan for my day. Think about the things that I need to get done in the day and allow myself to be very present in nature while doing it.
I love that.
Come back home after maybe like a mile to 2 miles, contingent upon how much time I have. Wash up really quickly, jump into my car, drive to work. Probably stay fasted until around 1:30, 2 o'clock. So I'm doing all of this fasted the entire day, which oddly enough, I feel the most energy when I'm fasted as opposed to after I eat food. Super interesting.
Hey, man. I play my best poker too when I'm fasted for
Yeah, I
sure.
feel so mentally acute when I'm fasted. I honestly don't think I'll ever switch off of intermittent fasting. Then I work. Oh, geez, a typical work day for me can probably be about 9 to 7 or 7:30.
Mhm.
Drive back home. The moment that I get home, I drop everything and I quickly get some carbs in and I start working out. Yeah, I just literally drop everything, slam some carbs, and there was a point where not the healthiest thing, but back when I was a bit more of a gym bro, I used to just have a tub of maltodextrin powder where I would literally just take a scoop of pure carbs, put it into water, mix it, and slam it back. So yeah, I do my quick workout, and I usually split my workouts into upper lower now, so that I can work like lift 4 times a week.
Nice.
And right after I finish, shower, and then I jump right onto my computer and work with all of my other side ventures.
Man, and then you go to bed, wake up, do the next thing, right? So
Do
not
the
a
same
lot of like
exact thing.
thinking,
Yeah.
not a lot of consuming, not a lot of, very
No,
intentional.
I mean I set specific times to do things, but man, like watching television stuff like that is just something I don't have time for. But I do make time for reading and enhancing my learning. I always make sure that I do. I actually have a little bit of a bookshelf up here where I have some of the things that I'm reading.
Nice,
Um
man.
yeah, and I always make sure that I'm reading, expanding my knowledge. But like in terms of like a cost benefit analysis of my time, I just like I can't find the time to sit down and watch Netflix for like 2 hours.
I'm exactly with you, man. And I think as you age, that only, you start to see like, look, I'll hit 40 here next year. And I'm like, I only have so much time on this earth, man. I never want to get to the end and be like, well, man, I wish I would have watched Game of Thrones one more time all the way through, right? Like I'm never gonna say that. So it's like I
Yeah.
always want to be intentional with that. Tell me a little bit about your walks, man, because this is something I think we can highlight to everybody. And a lot
Oh,
of people say to me, like, Ty, I don't know where to start, or I'm intimidated by the gym or this. And I always tell them the same thing: get a walk every
get a
day,
walk.
man. Every high achiever, you're in this group now of everybody I talk to who's a high achiever schedules a daily walk it's non-negotiable for me too, man. I hit a 3-4 mile walk every day. I'm blessed to live in Vegas. The coldest it gets out here is 40, and I'll be wearing a winter coat when it's 40. But
Yeah.
but tell me about that, man. Are there days when it's raining, you still go? Like, is that a non-negotiable thing for you
It
then?
is. It is without a doubt. Like I would say actually the single most non-negotiable thing is for my walk. I don't know what it is about a walk, but I completely agree with you that walking is the single most important thing to do for anyone that wants to be a high achiever. And I would actually say, and this is very personal anecdote of me, walking is what allowed me to recover so quickly from my back surgery.
Mm.
And the reason why I say that is because walking strengthens everything without you actually realizing, right? And when you get back surgery and you get cut open in an area where you're not used to having scar tissue and things like that, the strengthening you get from walking every single day for your joints, for your back, for your everything is amplified that much more. So really, walking allows me to just get much more mentally acute, like I was saying before. And, just like you said, even if it's raining out, I'll make sure to walk on the treadmill. Even if it's snowing out, I'll make sure to somehow get my walk in. If I somehow oversleep and I don't wake up in time in the morning, I'm scheduling time on my lunch break to walk around in my parking lot, which I do nearly every single day on my lunch break. And people think that I'm crazy, especially in the wintertime, because I have a big parking lot in my office building, and like the wind can get like crazy and it's whipping you in the face when you're walking and everything. And I see everyone like sprinting inside, and me, I'm just doing laps in the parking lot. Yeah, it's gotten to a point where my CEO is like, it's the most impressive thing I've ever seen. He's like, I don't understand how you do it. I'm like, I just have to.
That's awesome, man. I love that. I think that, again, if you want to get to certain spots in life, you always have to pay a cost. Maybe that cost is some people think you're weird. Some people, I'll never forget, man, when I was in corporate too, I managed a pretty wealthy bank here in town, and we had a really wealthy client. And I would take my shirt off and shoes off every day and walk laps just right across the street. And so one day I was coming back from laps, and literally this rich client who I'm running her bank sees me and thinks I'm a homeless person and tries to give me $5. Like, can I help you out? And then I'm like, no, like Miss Kate, it's me, it's Tyler, like
Yeah.
but
Oh my God.
it's okay. There's a cost. Sometimes people are going to think you're a little crazy, but when you have that vision of where you want to go and what you want to do, that tends to be okay. And it really sounds like you have that purpose, kind of, where you want to get to in life. So tell me a little bit about like, what are your goals when I say, hey, okay, Tom Soliver, you're the CEO of your life. Where are you going to be in a year? Where are you going to be in 3 years? What's kind of your game plan, man?
Oh man, I have to say, and like I said, if this ever gets back to anybody that I work with, I mean, I don't know if I really care, but you know, if Tom is the CEO of his own life and I am the CEO of my own life, I need to work for myself within a 3 to 5 year time frame, whether that be through Tom the Brain Battery, whether that be through the side ventures that I currently have, whether that be something else that I may scheme up along the way. I realized, and I'm sure this is something that you have as an entrepreneur as well, I don't believe I'll ever be happy working for somebody else. I am somebody who's very goal driven. I'm somebody that's very purpose driven. So much so, and I don't mean to sound egotistical in this front whatsoever, but I did probably anywhere from 18 million to $20 million worth of net sales at my job this past year in 2022. And I am not a millionaire. I will say that right now, my right hand to God, right? But I damn well made my CEO one. Right? So, if I'm lucky, I see a discretionary bonus off of that to a tune of like 1 or 2%, right? And I always think back and I'm like, holy crap, like, if I put in the time, the effort, the energy to do all this myself, then I will feel more fulfilled. Right now, I just feel like I'm good at my job and I'm good at what I do, but I need to be able to expand my horizons and do something for myself. If I had the ability tomorrow to quit my job and full nosedive into Tom the Brain Battery full time and do podcasts and do content creation and speak to people, I'd do it in a heartbeat, man. An absolute heartbeat.
Yeah, I tell you, man, I think I always thought when I was kind of in that corporate life too that I enjoyed it. People tell me I was good at there. I'm grateful for the time there, but I always knew, man, I had something deeper within. Like, and one of my first mentors told me at one point, if you can give 45 hours a week to this company, give 4 or 5 hours a week to yourself, build something on the side for you, and that really stuck with me, man, of like, now I love the fact that everything that I do kind of comes from my mind or my creation, and it's, I don't know, there's a different kind of feeling when you wake up that day. I mean, there's some stress to it too, right? Because there's some great things about having a 9 to 5. Hey man, every other Friday you're getting paid, right? Like,
Yeah.
now if I go on a 2-week vacation, nothing comes in, right? So it's like, you have to know that there's pros and cons, but I feel like there's certain people I talk to that just know deep inside of them. One of my other buddies who will watch this, I'm sure, who lives in Manhattan. Shout out to Nathan, but yeah, he's in the same boat, man. He came out of college, took a great job, high paying, but he said he just knew within several months, like I don't want to work my way up the corporate ladder. I see what the people above me are doing, and that's where I'm supposed to go, and I don't want to go there. I want to do something on my own. So he's starting to build on the side too. And I think, if you know that within, that's great. and then you just got to pay the cost, man. You don't come home and watch Netflix every night. Like you come home and build, right? That's a big thing.
Exactly. You pay the cost now so that they pay dividends later, right? And one thing that I've realized, because I also do coaching on the side, just like physical health, mental health coaching for people. Dollars earned on my own hit so different than dollars earned working and selling my time to somebody else. I don't know what it is, but I'm so much more proud of seeing the business bank account, even though it's much smaller than the bank account where my check gets deposited. There's just something about the fruits of your labor or the seeds of your labor budding into a tree that it's like, damn, like I did that. Like I did that off the sweat of my own brow. So yeah, it just feels so much more fulfilling.
I agree, man. There's a really cool Joe Rogan speech about this where he says, a lot of guys, especially that feel stuck, they go into these office jobs and maybe they're great at them, right? But all day, all they're doing is Excel spreadsheets and they're not really creating anything. And he's like, then I'll meet this guy who just makes furniture. And he gives this example of, he takes so much pride in that furniture. Maybe he flips it and he only makes $400 or $500. He does it once a month, but he's so proud of it. And he restored that thing and it's his work going into it and it's his money coming in. And it does just hit different, man. I can't explain it either, but I also think one thing is if you can make $1 doing it, you can make 100. And if you can make 100, you can make 1,000 and 10,000. And once you hit that first dollar hits, I remember thinking, I can go as big as I want, right? I can hire the right mentors. I can bridge that knowledge gap. I can do what I need to do to scale this up to create the life I want. And so I think you're probably seeing a lot of that early too, man, which is exciting, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's crazy because, bridging back to the former point of our conversation about the amount of time that I put in for the creation of threads, right? It's like a labor of love as opposed to the labor at work is literally just me doing labor, right? Like I put in the 10 to 12 hours writing the thread in a week and I don't see a single dollar off of the threads that I create, right? But I don't mind doing that because I know that hopefully I can build that social media presence, that maybe build a newsletter and charge for content and blah 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 blah, right? As opposed to it's really nice when that my job actually pays me weekly, that weekly check hits, but it's just like, damn, like I just spent like 60 hours of my time earning this, right?
It definitely does hit different, man. Well, dude, I'm excited to watch you on your journey, brother. And like, it's just been cool for you to come on the scene. You're a guy right away that I think I picked up and was like, this guy is putting out some fire. And I appreciate everything you do, man. I really do. What's a piece of advice maybe you give somebody, like a younger guy out there who's maybe in his mid-20s too, and maybe he says, well, I feel a lot of this anxiety. I'm working a job that I don't necessarily love. And what would you tell somebody like that?
I would say to somebody like that it's really important to do a bit of soul searching, right? Really taking the time. I feel like in modern day society, we just go through the motions every single day, right? And I'm a firm believer that somebody's life is an amalgamation of memories and actions. If every single day you're going to an unmemorable job and you're doing unmemorable actions, every day is going to feel like it goes by fast. And then year after year is going to tick over and tick over. How we spend our hours is how we spend our days, and how we spend our days is how we spend our lifetime, right? If you can take a step back, zoom out, be mindful, sit with yourself, figure out what your intrinsic values are, then turn your being into your doing. Make your intrinsic values what you're working towards every single day. And then you're going to be able to come out the other side as a much more fulfilled person. And hopefully you're going to be able to continue to work towards something or someone that you want to become.
Man, that's perfectly said, man. My wife and I talk about that a lot. Are you doing this intrinsically because you love it or extrinsically because you feel like you need to or should, And I feel like that's what you talked about when you write those threads, right? I feel like that, like I've hopped on probably hundreds at this point of calls, like with people in my DMs or just real quick video, whatever that is. I'm never going to see a penny from any of those people, but I feel like, man, that's just like, I want to do it, right? I want to help them. I want to do these things. And so I feel like when you find something like that makes you tick and it feels bigger than you almost, man, run towards it. And if you don't have that thing in your life right now, don't watch another TV show. Like get off autopilot, like you said, and you need to discover that thing that makes you tick, that makes you feel alive, right?
Precisely. Yeah. And, I think that so many people fall victim to chasing the dollar. You know, there's a whole, and don't get me wrong, I don't think that there's anything wrong with making money. Absolutely not. But, you know, I love making money. I think everyone does. But making that your sole purpose, making that the whole reason that you go about your life is the completely wrong way to do about it. There was an amazing study that was done where people looked at what's it called? The amount of money that you need to make and then correlated with people's actual perceived happiness. And once people hit something like $90,000 USD, their actual happiness value that they subscribe to their life never increased no matter how many dollars they actually made. What did increase their happiness was how fulfilled they felt in their relationships, how close they felt with their partner, how many friendships and people that they managed to touch in their lives. So making money is don't get me wrong, isn't like a root evil or anything like that, but look outward. Don't always look so inward and look to your bank account for your fulfillment and happiness. Look towards your external relationships and improving other people's lives, and I guarantee you'll wind up feeling more fulfilled.
Man, dude, I'm fist pumping here. The whole time my man Tom is talking here, I'm just fist pumping, brother. I really, dude, I appreciate you coming on so much. Can you share what you're reading right now, Tom? What's a
Yeah, of
couple
course.
things?
So I'm actually reading. So I just finished up reading a fantastic book. It was called The Practice of Groundedness by Brad Stulberg. I recommend that anyone listening to this reads that book. It was phenomenal. However, right now I'm reading $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy, which
Alex
is
Hermosi, what a
because
beast.
yeah, so good. And his writing style is so like short and punchy and to the point. I recommend any budding entrepreneur reads that book because it has completely changed my outlook on offer creation.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I actually just listened to a podcast of his a couple of weeks ago, and it's led me to I'm creating a product right now that basically was just off of listening to that podcast. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do some things different now, just because.
Awesome.
And that guy's
I'm excited to see what that is now, man. You got me interested.
that's it. Give little teases out, man. I've been putting a couple little tweets out. Basically, a 16-week marriage course, man, where I'm gonna make videos, workbooks, all these things that I can put people through and cohorts and run them through it and things like that. So yeah, I'm excited about it, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, as soon as you drop it, man, let me know. I'll be sure to put it towards my very small audience. You have my word.
It's growing by the day, brother, and I love to see it growing. And I'm sure anybody listening to this, you can see why Tom is growing, man. Very intentional, man. You inspire me a lot, brother. You had so many gems on here today. I'll be honest, I don't listen back to a lot of the podcasts I do just because when you're creating a lot of content, it's like on to the next one. I will 100% listen to this back, man. I really appreciate a lot of the wisdom you shared, a lot of the insights you shared, man. Again, guys, I'm going to link everything Tom does below. Give this guy a follow. Sign up for his newsletter. If you don't follow this guy on Twitter, I'm telling you, you're just missing out. He is a fantastic follow. And just a better guy, man. And if you have questions on coaching or anything that we've talked about today, shoot him a DM, man, or just say thanks. As a content creator, a lot of times you just want to, if people tell you, hey, I resonated with that, it feels good. That's why we do it. That's why we put things out there, man. So, don't be shy when it comes to Tom. Tom, I'm going to give you the last word here, brother. What do you want to tell the people? And again, man, super grateful for you coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Tyler, I'm just extremely grateful for the opportunity to speak to you, man, get onto camera. I would say, and I would leave this as a lasting thought for anybody that's worried about putting themselves out there or worried about going to meet new people. This is the first time that you and I have ever spoken on camera, right?
Right.
My
Yeah.
right hand to God. Yeah. And we've had a conversation right now like we've known each other for months. So if you and I can do it, I believe that anybody could do it. If anybody's worried about producing content, just go out there and do it, get after it. And I think that we only make the own excuses in our own head, and we are our own ceiling. Break through that, and let's get after it together.
Amen, baby. Fist pump. We're ending on that thought, man. I love you so much, Tom. You are the man. I appreciate you coming on here, brother. I look forward to your continued rise and growth and all the people that I know you're going to impact too, man. I think this is what life is, man. It's that ripple effect. The people you're going to affect, then they're going to affect people. And that's how we change the world, baby. So thank you guys for tuning in. This has been episode, I believe 66, could be 67. Not sure. You guys know I never know. We're right around that of Tyrompers No Limit podcast. Thanks for our guest, Thomas Oliver, for coming on. Give him a follow at The Brain Battery on Twitter. You guys go be kind to yourselves. Go be kind to other people. Let's go change the world, baby. Have the greatest day.
Take care, everybody.